Hey, and welcome back to Q&A the Librarian Way. I'm Julia from Stylish in the Stacks.
And I'm Emily from the Gnoming Librarian.
And today we are posing a question, maybe more so than answering a question. It's that time of year where budgets are coming up where they have to be spent, especially in the school world. I know my budget has to be spent by the 1st of November.
Mine too.
I'm assuming, okay,
Yep,
so
mine as well.
Things are kind of wrapping up. And so that inevitable question of what do you spend your money on at the end of the year when you've kind of already gone through your typical book lists and made your other typical orders. And that's kind of where I am right now. And I've been looking at my collection, and I just updated our video collection. I've got my databases ordered. And so now I'm looking at my nonfiction section. And my nonfiction books are definitely getting outdated. I understand that. I've put off buying history books for a while because history doesn't necessarily change. However,
The history major in me is like,
I know. There are newer
Yes.
versions. I understand that. Like, obviously, I don't want all of my Vietnam War books to be from that time. Like, I want some more current. But I haven't had as many class visits this year using those materials. You know, my classes are using databases and they're using electronic resources. And so the thought of spending like $5,000 on books that are going to look really pretty on the shelf but maybe not get used is very disheartening.
Yeah.
But yet, can I afford the space to add that many fiction books to my collection, which probably would get used? That's a lot of books.
It is a lot of books.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question.
It is.
I think it's interesting that your budget, like to me in my head, your budget would be for a school year. That way you can plan out knowing, okay, this is
Yeah.
what I need for the
That
fall.
would be
this is what I
nice.
need for
I
the
really
spring.
wish it was, but it's calendar
Because
year.
a semester, a summer away
Yeah.
would have to be kind of hard because
Yeah.
you'd be planning then, like you'd be guessing.
Right. Yeah, because
for
I'm
the fall.
already, because we don't necessarily get our new budget in January. Sometimes we don't get it until March or April. So sometimes I'm thinking through like, well, am I going to need anything in January, February, March? So.
We have that problem too, that, I mean, if the wonderful 1782 form that comes and gives you your budget,
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on when you get
Yeah.
that. So there's a spending freeze at the beginning of the year waiting for that form to come in.
Yeah.
And at that time, books are being published. And you're like,
You're
okay,
behind.
so then you're already behind starting out the year. You're trying to catch up. If you try to pre-order the previous year, and this was the trouble we had this year, we were spending this year's money on books that we ordered last year.
Yeah.
And so that threw off the
Yeah.
budget at the beginning of the year as well. So budget is hard.
It
and
is.
Planning
And I
is
know
hard.
some schools, like, your budget is divided into categories. So many people may not even have this problem because they know this much is spent on audiovisual, this much is spent on databases. Mine is given to me on a lump sum, and I am just trusted to spend it in whatever way I see
And you have
fit.
to spend it on collections?
No, not necessarily, because I'm using part of my budget for my author visit,
Okay.
for the lunch in my author visit. So no, I can use it in other ways.
In other ways.
Why, do
Is
you have
there
ideas?
Well, I'm just saying, is there something then for your library that you would like something for the space itself that you would like
Yeah,
to
we
have?
don't necessarily, well, I guess I've never tried using that budget for furniture or anything before.
Or
We've
what
always-
about, like, you talked about on, like, the days where the kids leave early on Wednesdays, like having an activity
That's
there.
true, yeah.
Something that
That's
you
true.
can have.
Kind of the makerspace
Yeah.
kind of materials. Well, I did just buy 8 volcano making kits
Oh.
since Mike Mullen is coming.
Nice.
So we're gonna do something with that. It's gonna be pretty spectacular.
I like how you adjusted
I know.
your glasses.
It's just because I'm not used to wearing them. I feel very.
But I
And
mean,
Mike
that's
Mullen
an
wears
idea.
glasses,
Yeah, there
too.
you go. That's an idea, though, to kind of.
That's true, to think of something to add to the space. That's a good idea.
We found ourselves, like, we have our budget divided up, so our summer reading program is a budget all in itself.
Yeah.
And if we have money at the end of the summer reading program, we try to buy things that, like this year, we tried to buy things that were imprinted with our logo that we could hand out
Yeah.
the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So using that money towards other things that
Yeah.
kind of get us through the end of the year. And the teens in my teen room, huge gamers, both boys and girls, mostly boys. I have mostly boys. Like it's 10 to 1, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, it's 9 to 1 almost, boys to girls. So we ended up using some of that money to buy a Wii U.
Oh.
So that was exciting.
Yeah.
So sometimes we plan ahead that way, like said for like the
Right.
makerspace things or the, they've talked about this. Sometimes I like to throw them a bone and get them
Yeah.
something they've talked about.
Yeah.
Because it does, I mean, they've taken ownership in that room and they want they want to participate in different
Right.
ways. So, but we have a lot of trouble with the spending of the books. What do I spend the money on?
Yeah.
This year we started using Collection HQ, which is a really cool software program that lets you see if you're overstocked or understocked in areas so it looks at circulation in the year of the book that you got it. So it's really nice knowing that my collection, like the size of your collection.
Yeah.
So my teen room collection is saying it's a little understocked, just a little, but now I know I don't need to get
Right.
much bigger.
Right.
So when I start to think of that money, where else could I put that money? Should I try something like, we might try Hoopla, the streaming of videos and music and
Right.
that kind of thing, or, I mean, should I put my money there instead of somewhere else?
Right.
So it'd be kind of an interesting tool to see
That's
how,
true.
How much is that actually
true.
being used? Should you really spend
Yeah,
your
I'd like to
money on
see it
that?
in numbers.
The
rather
numbers
than
have
just
helped.
me knowing in my head.
And it's really cool too, because they have a spending plan, so I can punch in what my budget's gonna be next year, and it tells me where to put my money. So it's
Oh.
saying, you need to spend $20,000 on fiction, you
Yeah.
need to spend 12,
Yeah.
so it shows me that, and it's like, oh, it takes some of that guessing out, because
Right.
you never really know.
Right.
And as librarians, we want to make sure that there's up-to-date, relevant information available to our patrons,
Right.
so it's hard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem to have.
But our nonfiction section is shrinking, and that's just
Well, and
kind
that's
of
the
the
thing
reality
too,
of
like
it as
most
well.
of the nonfiction that gets checked out is narrative nonfiction,
Mhm.
maybe something that's a little more hobbies related. The actual research nonfiction, not getting used
I mean,
very
I
much.
can't tell the last time I've had a teenager come into the building asking for research materials.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, everything is
library's
being done
changing.
online. It is changing.
yeah.
So that was, and the fun thing though is that you can then use that space for something
Right,
new, the
right.
opportunity that it allows. Like
Yeah.
I'm always eyeing spaces in the library, like, ooh, we could do group
Yeah,
study areas
uh-huh.
there, or we could do this there.
Yeah.
Because I know it'll get used in that way instead
Right.
of how we're using it, so.
Yeah. So we definitely want to know your suggestions, because we're really posing this question to you too.
Yes, we are.
What are creative ways that you are using your budget money, or things that maybe you wouldn't have purchased 5 years ago that now are being used heavily, or
What's the status of your nonfiction
Yeah.
section? I mean, we've talked about reference and how our
Yeah.
reference sections are, mine's gone, is yours gone?
no, but it's
Almost.
little.
It's little?
It's probably
Um,
gonna disappear. I hate to say that.
I
For
know,
reference.
I know, but,
Encyclopedias, what are those?
yeah, but what is the status of your nonfiction
Yeah.
section? Is it shrinking, or have you found creative ways to use it to make sure it gets used? We would love to hear that as well.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week for
Yep.
another Q&A the librarian way. Bye.
Bye.